Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here today. It's a special episode of Proper Royals Live. It's being recorded live, but not broadcast live. So it's a little different, but I'm not going to rename the show. Today is all about the evolution of shed testing, both as an entity and a company, but also as a vision and a goal and an expanded vision in the reptile world. What does all that mean? What's all those words mean, Adam? Charlie Williams really quickly started as Rider Reptiles, you might remember, a couple years back, then evolved to shedtesting.com. And today is the evolution or the further evolution of shedtesting.com. That entity or company is a concept called Phenome. And Phenome is a partnership of Charlie Williams, Dr. Patrick MacKnight from Aura Reptiles, Josh Hanson, who is a leading keeper of unique, incredible reptile species, and also Jeffrey Hudson, who's an industry expert as well as a biologist and reptile keeper himself. Those four gentlemen have partnered together with this new vision of Phenome. And today is the unveiling and the explanation of all of that. I don't have much more to add because I'm going to be in over my head if I try and explain anymore. So I'm going to bring those gentlemen onto the stage, and we were going to find out kind of what led to Phenome, what is Phenome as it is and as it exists today, and then where's Phenome going and what does that mean for the reptile world. Gentlemen, thank you all for being here. I appreciate you joining me, and I appreciate the opportunity to share this with everybody in our community, in our world here. If you guys could take maybe just a quick elevator pitch moment to introduce yourselves. I realize we're reaching a whole lot of new audiences today, so maybe some of the audiences aren't familiar with various players here. Yeah. Josh, you want to go first?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Adam, so much for having us on. Yeah, this is a really fun day and week as we move forward on the shed testing genetics front of things. And my background is just a reptile enthusiast of all sorts. I keep a lot of different reticulated pythons, colubrids, some anacondas, and a bunch of different geckos and other reptiles. And I've been doing that for seriously about 10 years in the reptile industry, but my whole life have been into it to some extent. And as I was diving more into what the possibilities are with some of the snakes I keep, that's where the conversations started with these guys. And I'll let that story come out later, but Charlie, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm Charlie Williams, and I own shedtesting.com. Like Adam said, started out as Rider Reptiles. I pretty much self-taught how to do this genetic testing on ball pythons. And, over the years, the business has grown, and, I'm excited to keep growing and expand our abilities with shed testing.
So I'll go next, Charlie. So I'm Patrick MacKnight. A lot of y'all might know me as the owner of Aura Reptiles and Chimera and MacKnight stables before that. So mainly ball pythons, which tied in nicely with the ball python genetic stuff. That's kind of my side thing. My main job in life has always been, I'm a PhD in biochemistry and molecular biology with an emphasis on genetics. So I actually do bioinformatics now, where I use computers to analyze really large sets of data, which is very handy when trying to find mutations. And so we're going to start using that skill set a little bit more to look into some genetic mutations for reptiles across the board. So pretty excited to get to leverage that, do something that's really fun.
Patrick, what was that word? Bioinformatics, did you say?
Yeah, bioinformatics.
Man, it's a cool word. And then just to hear how you just described it a moment ago, I mean, is this sort of the data analysis evolution of what we see going on in other parts of the world or other parts of science and computers?
Yeah, so essentially, right, you have like data scientists, right? And generally those are people that are just working with like hard numbers or like, they're digging into statistics and things like that. The bioinformatics side is where you're basically combining biology and like a software engineering thing together, where you're taking like experimental stuff and you're doing experiments, and then you're using the technology side, the software side, to really analyze that data you've generated to create an outcome. So it's this weird like mixture of physical, biological sciences and computer science.
All right. I have more questions on that for later. That's pretty
Sure.
cool. Jeffrey, could you introduce yourself for us as well?
Yeah, of course. So my name is Jeffrey Hudson. I'm the owner of Specialty Herps, which is short for Herptofauna. I've been involved in the reptile industry from a hobby standpoint for about 12 years, and then been having it as an actual business for about 5 years. During that time, I met Josh, and we've kind of been working together on various animal projects and such. And truthfully, I'm a survey biologist by training and then education as well. So I've worked for various state and federal agencies looking at mostly vertebrate animals, mule deer, bears. I've done desert tortoises, that kind of stuff. And I kind of see Phenome now as the natural progression within what I enjoy the most, which is reptiles. And I'm just really excited that everyone's here and we're able to unveil this.
This is an amazing, team is the best word, but assembly of people. I notice and say a lot on my show, the cool thing about our world and our industry or our hobby is that everybody's an expert in something else. And then we come here, and you guys are a great example of that. But what a team. For those that aren't familiar with sort of the history or the goals of what shedtesting.com and Gray Rider Reptiles was, Charlie, can you take us a little bit through that sort of beginning story there?
Yeah, so I'm computer science by education. I have a computer science degree, and I'm just somebody who needs to know how everything works, no matter what it is. You know, it's good and bad. It's bad because I spend a lot of time just looking up things that I don't need to know, but I have to know why they work, and somebody else knows this and I don't. That gets me upset. So I have to figure things out. So years ago, I saw Dr. Hannah Seidel on a podcast talking about genetic testing on ball pythons and extracting DNA from sheds, and that got my wheels turning. And I said, I wonder if this is something I could possibly do. And I spent the night researching Google and YouTube, and it was very up in the air whether or not I'd be able to do it at that point. But then, months have gone by, just nonstop thinking about it. And I got to the point where I thought I could do it. So I bought some equipment and, started talking to a few other scientists, and I just started messing around. And eventually took a while, but eventually it worked. And, I would just test some snakes. I ball pythons, I breed ball pythons, and I've always had reptiles. So a bunch of friends I've had in the industry were sending me sheds to test. And then eventually people pushed me to start offering it to the community, and I did. And it was a fun little thing to do on the side after my day job, and then it kind of snowballed into what it is right now. And it's gotten very busy. Great customers. Everybody put a lot of trust in me, and I really appreciate everybody having faith in me and following me along this journey.
It's been incredible to see. And I remember, and I'm not sure if it was my show or somebody else's, but Dr. Seidel was on my show. And then I saw some of the work that you were doing. And we worked a little bit in a advertising promotional kind of role, but you were somebody that I was just like, you were one of the few people that I've actually pitched to. You never were like, who could help me advertise? I was just like knocking on your door. I was like, Charlie, I got to see this through with you, man. This is a really cool thing. And it's amazing to see where this is at now. So obviously that grew. It obviously attracted the attention of people like Josh, Jeffrey, and then I know you and Patrick have worked a little bit. I don't know what official capacity, but certainly in a consulting, friend, guidance, maybe more official capacity.
More of just me annoying him.
Charlie was never afraid to ask questions. I think that's really, I actually met Charlie. Somebody sent me a text message saying, there's this random person in New York offering tests for hypo. Do you know anything about it? And I was like, nah, but I'll message him and find out what's going on. And it just kind of went from there. It's kind of funny how it started. So
I've always, just as an outsider watching, I've seen sort of Charlie's grind and then Patrick's sort of analysis of things. And I'm like, this seems pretty legit with the both of you guys at it, like individually, totally. I would be on board, but together I was like, there's like, what is in science? We always look for like peer review. I always felt like Patrick, you were the peer review of this whole thing. And I was like, this is good. If there's a doctor peer reviewing, this is going to go well. Josh, tell us, how did you enter the picture? Where was this origin story of there had to be a phone call or a text or an email or some aha light bulb where it began the connection?
Yeah. Well, going a little ways back, it was about 3 years ago, acquired albino green anaconda T negative albino, and that was from Chris and Eric at Fascination Herps, and had that, and then wasn't really intending to do much with it besides grow it up and maybe breed it someday. But then I had the opportunity to get, actually got that one's mother, who's the original 14-foot albino T-negative anaconda that was picked up in the forest 12, 13 years ago. And so acquired her and a bunch of the het babies, and then also kind of out of the blue dropped a xanthic anaconda, so black and white, essentially, anaconda baby that was born this past year. And
that was from your collection. By total luck, you had a het to het unknown and popped out an xanthic anaconda.
No, we bought the xanthic anaconda. It popped out.
I was like, holy cow, man!
Yeah. No, it popped out of somebody else's, and then then Jeffrey and I were talking, and the gears started going. You know, what does a snow anaconda look like when you cross xanthic and albino together? What are the possibilities out here? And I also was able then to get the dam that gave birth to that xanthic and all the hets from it as well. Those were pos hets, though. The sire was killed by the mom. So the project had ended, and it started there. And so,
wow. Okay.
Yeah. So Jeffrey and I were like sitting there like, okay, this is cool. There's something here. How do we do it? And Jeffrey had some good connections with Charlie and reached out to him and said, we got this thing we might want to do. And so then we all got on a call, Patrick and Jeffrey and myself, and we started talking genetics and mapping entire genomes, which is something that hadn't been done in many cases with reptiles. And if we mapped the entire anaconda genome, we'd be, I think, one of the first to maybe do it in the world, and that would be cool. In addition to doing that, we'd have it, and we could start going and looking for where the traits might be, and see if we could identify who might be het, who's not het, and then hopefully advance faster the ability to breed these unique anacondas that we have and produce some really stunning visuals later on.
Now, for anybody that's watching that, you know, we're kind of throwing around some genetic terms that I realize to Patrick are very basic, but I also realize to the audience, they might be going, I'm losing it here. So who wants to take a stab at like and I could try it too, but who wants to take a stab at the quick, like, if you don't have testing and you don't know which are hets, how long the process would be for a snow anaconda versus just having the insight to say, this animal and this animal are what I want to keep grow up, and maybe talk. I don't even know this. How long does it take an anaconda to mature? I mean, how long are you waiting, even knowing the genetics?
Jeffrey, take this one.
I know. I can break down the timeline a little bit. So,
okay,
let's say for Josh's project, the ultimate goal is the snow. With the animals that we have currently at his facility, and we didn't do any of the genetic stuff, it would take at minimum 14 years to possibly see a snow.
If all things working, no mistakes, you've and how many babies are you talking about holding back? The facility space you need to pull that off is pretty, and these are big snakes. I think people get how big anacondas are, but I mean, that's a lot of facility space.
Exactly. And then, you know, if we're able to identify those possible hets for what we need, we can cut that time down to 7 to 9 years at best. So, I mean, that's a significant change, which is great.
That is a lot of change. And there's all sorts of, catchphrases about, you know, the most valuable thing is time and all of that, but it is pretty true. And you can't get that back. So, okay. So it starts as this like, hey, I would like this. This would be fun to pursue. That's one angle, but I'm guessing that the resources, let's just be honest, financial investments and time and energy that everybody's putting into this, there's got to be a bigger picture than one dream animal. Is that right? What's the goal of, what's the why? What's the goal for Phenome?
Well, you hit on it with what you were just talking about a lot of animals in a facility to hold them. I think Jeffrey and I were getting super excited every time we talked to Patrick and Charlie on the phone for an update about the anacondas, and our minds were really going forward quickly. We have a lot of reticulated pythons in my collection, a lot of pure superdwarfs, pure Karampa, Madu, really small ones. And not to be controversial, but retics produce a lot of babies and big clutches, and they get to be huge snakes that consume huge amounts of food. And we were looking at what we were hearing and doing for the anaconda and saying, there's other species we could apply this to. And from an ethical and an economic standpoint, geez, we can change the industry potentially and do it with some finances that make sense behind it, because a retic breeder would definitely want to know what's in their animals before going and seeing what the clutch produces, and then having an entire clutch of animals and either having visuals, not having visuals, not knowing what's there. And so how could we start applying this to different species that are out there? And so, without going in too deep, I'd say that is a core part of what Phenome is too. It's beyond what exists today, and it's actively beyond what exists today in terms of reptile shed testing. We don't want to give it all away because we're not ready to yet, but there's so many exciting paths to go down this beyond just visual genetics too. There's other things too. So I think that produced a lot of excitement. And then we started talking to Patrick and Charlie and saying, what could this morph into, where we could bring the ideas, the resources, the funding to push this forward and take all the expertise that everyone has and make it something big. And I also don't want to. There's two other owners of the company, which is Sierra Ballard and Clay Carlson. When you mentioned it takes a bunch of experts, Sierra's a huge expert in the finance, legal, contract, keeping us all in order type of a role, and she's outstanding at that. She's always been a reptile fan as well. And then Clay Carlson is a longtime friend of Jeffrey, a friend of mine, and he runs the operations for the company as well. So he's got a great skill set in knowing how everything needs to fit together to move really well. So there's a total of 6 of us that are moving it forward as owners. And then beyond owners, we also have additional roles in other positions that are working right now for the company as well. So it's not going to be a little side project.
No, and thank you for the clarification. I certainly didn't mean to leave anybody out on that. And you're exactly right when it comes to having legal, financial, and operational North Stars or rudders on the ship. It's a good. It sounds like a well-rounded team, and like you, to your point just a moment ago too. It's not just a side project. Something that maybe the audience might not realize. You were talking about the reticulated pythons clutch sizes. Just as an example, and you guys can keep me honest here if I'm messing this up, but 2 heterozygous animals are only theoretically going to produce 25% visuals. That means you have 75% of the clutch, which you're not sure if those have the genes that you want to continue the project with. And if you can reduce how many of those situations are occurring, there's always the question of the ethics in pets. What happens to the ones that are, quote, less desirable? And I think that is important. And while it's maybe uncomfortable to bring up or for some people to hear, it's also important that this could be of value to reducing animals in their live. They're live animals, they're live beings. They shouldn't be unwanted. But the fact is, people like exciting, new, unique, rare in our world. And if we can reduce those byproducts, I think that's an ethical stand as well. And and again, even if we didn't worry about reducing the number, the sheer facility. I mean, what are we talking on a clutch of retics? 25, 30 bigger?
Can be bigger for mainlands, 40 plus sometimes.
Yeah, 40 plus 15-foot snakes, right? I mean, this is not they have to go somewhere. So, I think that's an intriguing point. So back to Phenome, you talked about anacondas, reticulated pythons. Do you see, let's talk about the financial standpoint. And I'm not talking about investment money or anybody's personal information. That's not what I'm talking about. If you go to map out the genome of, say, a reticulated python or an anaconda, is there enough of a market space or drive, or do you feel like you have to create that market space in the future for that demand? Where do the customers, where does this value in the future come from?
Yeah, I'll jump in, but anyone feel free to. In the case of the anaconda, it's a very small pool because it financially helps me out if I can cut 7 years off and also be able to sell hets or non-hets that we're not using to other people. So that would pay for itself in that case. But in terms of a large consumer product, that doesn't work. And I think ball pythons is huge. That's all staying just as is and getting even better and better with each passing week. These guys are killing it on new technology. And so taking that and just applying it to more prolific species that people keep is the path we're actively moving on. And that'll open up a value chain for what a lot more people in the reptile industry keep. We're doing stuff even outside of reptiles. So it's cool. There's lots of opportunity.
Okay.
I think too, I want about it. Part of what we're doing, everybody focuses just on morphs. There's a lot more to look at. I look at us more as like not just a morph testing company. It's a genetics company. So there's a lot. So even when we talk about like retics and anacondas, at the moment, the answer may be there's not a huge market for the visualization, but there's a market for other stuff. And so that there's other avenues to look at as well with this.
Are you able to expand on that? So if we say it's not morphs, are we talking health of animals? Are we talking size of animals?
I'm going to let your imagination run wild for now.
Okay. All right. Very cool. Oh, that's an even more intriguing answer, actually, now that you put it that way. Not bad. Not bad. Touche. I like that.
I was wondering how you're going to answer that.
Let your imagination run wild for now, but we've got some cool ideas.
Okay. All right. How about back to maybe some things we can't talk about? Charlie, it seemed just from, a little peek behind the curtain that I get every now and again, not a whole lot. It seemed like you had a pretty good thing going. Like maybe, do you ever say to yourself, maybe enough's enough? Maybe I don't need to take on more. Maybe shedtesting.com was pretty good as it was and you had a good thing going. Why bring other people in or expand or evolve?
Yeah, no, I'd love to talk about that. So, like I said, it was going great. It was amazing. All the customers, all the community has been so, amazing to me and, helping me out and sending me sheds when I need things and all that to help develop these new tests. I've gotten help from, Jürgen from Pro Herper in Europe, Heather in Canada. It was good. Everything is going great, but it was going kind of too great to the point where there wasn't much more I could do without help. It got to a point where, even with this new technology that we're using now, and it's a lot, and it's for one person to do. Yeah, I could handle one part of it. If I'm handling just the operations, that's fine. But then you have customer service, which is what I valued the most from the beginning. That takes up more time than anything. And then the research, I'm sitting on data for months now that I haven't been able to do anything with because I don't have the time. So it would either have been just coast along and stay how it was going and hopefully, develop some new tests here and there, or, grow and give to the community what they want. Because all we get is requests every day of, are you working on this? Are you working on that? Can you do this species? Can you do that species? The answer is yes, we probably can. But me by myself at this time in my life is no, I can't. That's for probably the last year that's been going on in my mind. Like, what am I going to do? Because at some point, some things had to change. And when this opportunity came along, especially all the conversations we had, it was like, this is a perfect fit. This is exactly what shedtesting.com needs and what the community needs. So, it was kind of a no-brainer.
And so and maybe I should have clarified this earlier, for your existing customers and the ball python community that has come to, it's so crazy. 3 years ago, this wasn't an option. And now we take it as like for granted, like it's just something you have to do kind of deal. Is anything, what do you see changing? First, is shed testing still going to exist from Charlie or from Phenome?
Yeah.
And then secondly, talk a little bit about the R&D, the research and development, like you were talking about. Do you see opportunities for that to grow? And is this team that's been assembled, is that going to be able, are you going to find resources within that for things like research and development?
Oh yeah, 100%. So this ball python testing is not changing whatsoever. It's continuing on every same thing. There'll be small changes that people see, website, things like that, but it's pretty much going to be the same. The same people running the tests. You're going to be sending them to the same place. So as things develop down the line, we'll be obviously making announcements about any changes to the website or procedures or anything like that. So, but as of now, everything's the same, and it's ball python testing is not going anywhere, and it's just going to get better. So as far as research and development, Patrick already has been grinding away, and it's great. And then to have resources like Jeffrey knows tons of people, and to be able to reach out and, hey, we want to start looking at this, can you find me these animals? Just to have people like that and not have it all just be on me. Because if it's all on me, it's going to take a long time to get done. So to have other people helping, and not like our text group is awesome. Like, they'd be like, hey, I just talked to this guy about this. Like this is crazy. Like I've wanted to talk to this guy about that, but I've never had a chance to, but now somebody else can. And, everybody working together has just been, it's very, very exciting, I guess, as I could say. It's really like, in the beginning, it's like, giving up, shedtesting.com. Shedtesting.com, you could still, even if you could still go there right now, it's still going to be where you order your tests. But, eventually it's going to be phenome.com. If you happen to go to shedtesting.com, it's just going to most likely redirect you to phenome.com. So, that's all going to be the same.
Great. Maybe let's go around the horn. Patrick, what do you see from in your lens? What gets you going about the opportunities and maybe the resources that you have that you didn't have prior to this to this team assembly?
Yeah, I think Charlie kind of hit it on the head. And one of the things that I've always appreciated working with Charlie is he's not afraid to acknowledge what he doesn't know. And that's always, I felt like, been one of my skill sets in life is when I don't know how to do something or I'm not an expert at something, I'm more than willing to say I don't know and then go find people that can help. And that is why, Josh, Jeffrey, Sierra, Clay, why almost immediately after the second meeting I think we had, conversations started happening because all of a sudden you realize these people know way more about stuff. And Charlie, we're already kind of talking about doing things with other species and stuff like that. Why don't we see what they're interested in, right? Because they can bring something to the table that we can't, right? They are so much better at all of the business side than Charlie and I ever were. And so, Charlie and I can do the science fairly well. The business side, they bring so much to the table. And then, Jeffrey with the connections he has brings so much. And so it just opens up so many doors because now Charlie and I literally can just focus on the science. And it's yesterday alone, 12 hours working on programs to get things working smoother and better. And Charlie and I are just going back and forth, and I'm not having to worry about customers and doing the sales side and all that. So it frees up so much time to do what we're actually good at to make the company the best it can be.
I think there's some universal truths in any industry, certainly was in my world of food and beverage operations. But when people can have the tools and focus on what they're good at, things get a lot better and the results get better and faster and people are happier and more energized. So that sounds a little bit like what's happening here. Jeffrey, what do you see? What opportunities in your world do you see? What kind of fulfillment, excitement do you have from this project here? From this, it's more than a project. This is a whole new venture.
For me, I've always appreciated ball pythons as a species and how they're a main driver within the reptile industry as a whole, but I've never personally kept them myself. And I've always been interested in, very eclectic, rare species, things like that. And, when we first started talking to Charlie and Patrick, I think Josh and I kind of realized is like there's just so many opportunities out there to look into all sorts of animals. And, I'm a part of a lot of different close-knit circles for various species or that folks breed. And they've been wanting various genetic stuff done, and it just hasn't gotten to that point yet. So, when we were thinking like, oh, we could be the main driver behind that, I think that's what excited me the most, because the possibilities are endless at that point. So.
Right. There, maybe, I don't know if anybody could talk to this or if this is just me thinking out loud. From like, I don't know if there's I can't think of another analog where there's so many enthusiasts and so little knowledge or expertise. Like, this doesn't happen in the world of cars or boats or guitars, or it's really strange to me how big the reptile world hobby industry is, and truly how little we know about it. Am I wrong on that? Am I just waxing poetic here? What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's kind of multifaceted. When you say we don't know a lot, I think we know a lot about specific species and things like that. We don't know a lot necessarily about the underlying genetics, which I think is more just like a biology and a life thing more than just a reptile thing. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm.
It does. Yeah. And thanks for clarifying. Yeah. So you do see that in other stages of nature, I guess, or the natural world?
Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe. Okay. Fair enough.
It's outside of my bubble, right? Maybe Josh and Jeffrey and Charlie can speak better to it. That's outside my bubble a little bit, but yeah.
Yeah. And I think we saw too, when Jeffrey and I were quickly taking all this information in and learning that with this huge industry that's out there, it was lacking other things. So like with Phenome, it's advancing the genetic science. So it's really saying, we got a whole lot of cool stuff here. Let's move it forward versus just sit on our hands. Like this industry and this hobby that we all love can be way cooler if we start diving in and playing with more genetic stuff. And then there's just the genetics, but people might not understand it, how to use it. Use it for breeding, use it for visualization, for health, for whatever. So I think as Phenome, that's a part of what we want to do is, what does this stuff actually mean, and how can you use it, and how can you use it going forward for your collections? And then at the end of the day, there's people who have learned how to do it with shedtesting.com, and that's been a great way to get their tests done. But how can we just make it super easy to submit, easy to access, and easy to manage ongoing? So I think that's what we can also bring to shedtesting.com as Phenome, is really give all these keepers a portal that is their genetic hotspot for everything they want to know, and not lose it after a result that comes in and you search your email or something like that. I think we can bring that to the table too, to make it go farther.
Yeah. I remember the first time they showed I think it was like overnight, they got a mock-up done of like what the website could look like. And I was like, they're like, yeah, maybe we could change something like this. I'm like, no, that's perfect. And like we hung up, I called Patrick. I'm like, what the heck? How did they do that so quick? I'm like, I'm trying to think of those stupid ideas in my head forever, and I couldn't figure that out. And they did it overnight. I'm like, this is awesome. Like, and that's the thing. Like, you don't know everything about everything. Somebody always knows more about something than you do. And people that think they know everything are the people that, I feel like usually will fail eventually. But like Pat, I will ask everybody I come by whatever question I feel like it. I don't have any problems. In the beginning, I would call random labs and be like, hey, this is what I'm doing. I have no idea what this means. Do you guys do this? How do I do this? And then I'd wind up having some doctor at a lab explaining things to me, even though I'm not doing anything with them. But, you just can't be afraid to ask questions and realize that somebody could always help and make things better for you.
In that vein, I'm picking up on a strong process-orientated focus and really a tech process focus. Is that a strength that's brought to the table? I'm guessing it's got to be coming from somewhere. If there's websites popping up overnight, and we're talking about smoothing out processes and systems on a large scale, so I take it that's part of the package here as well.
Yeah, I've been working in marketing in Silicon Valley for about 15 years. So kind of brings that background of visual brand side with the back of house technology and try to apply that where we can.
Very nice. Very nice. What will, as we kind of, we've gone from sort of the origin to where we're at, and as we look forward, what will people see? When will they see it? Where can they go see it? The press release is out. Obviously, this episode is airing. Where can people go find out more and tune in to what comes down the line? What evolves, and where can they follow all of that?
Tinley Park. We will be there in a couple of days. So we will be set up at Tinley. We'll have a booth. We'll have a lot of stuff to give out, information, some swag. And, we look forward to having conversations with anybody who wants to learn more and anybody who wants to, join us for the ride and, be there for us, be resources for us. That's a big thing. We're looking for people that are, experts in fields and species wise, whatever, we're open to talk to everybody.
And you can follow for updates on Phenome Genetics _genetics at Instagram. So that'll be live so people can kind of track happenings there. And really this Tinley is a soft launch of it. It's too exciting to let sit in the background. So, not everything's functional, not everything's where it's going to be by any means. So it's kind of all of us. Patrick said it early on. He's like, ultimately, guys, we need to have fun. And so I think that's where, if we're not having fun, let's not do this. That was a question that we all asked at the beginning. And so we're at Tinley to be excited and talk to people about all this cool stuff and have fun and share what we learn and know and push it forward.
Very good. Is phenome.com live yet, or is that still in the future? That's not live yet?
It'll go live either today or tomorrow.
Okay.
But it pushes, it's still, like we said, the core shed testing isn't going away. So for the time being, it's pushing you right through the traditional shed testing portal. A couple other things just to say too, there's always been great confidentiality and security around the tests. Charlie has been the only person ever with access to the results, and that's continuing forward. There's nobody else in Phenome or shed testing that has access to any results, because I breed species, Jeffrey does, Patrick does. We don't want there to ever be a conflict of interest, so there's a firewall and locked vault to that stuff in Charlie's hands, and that'll remain to be.
Yeah, everything is going to be run the same. We now have my same employee that's been working with me and doing amazing work here in the lab for over a year, and she's staying on board with Phenome, and everything is going to be run and done the same exact way, stored data, stored the same way, everything here. And, so nobody has anything to worry about with that.
Okay. I'm wildly impressed with the group of people that's come together. I like Patrick. I still like your answer. Just use your imagination. Like, it's really neat to think of what you guys could be cooking up and what could come our way. And I think it's like I say. I hope I didn't miss the point earlier for the audience. Shed testing is not going away. That service with Charlie and that guiding light that Charlie's always brought on his brand and the results and the reliability that we've always looked towards is still going to be there. I want to say thank you all for coming here, trusting me with your brand and your future work. I can't wait to see what you do. I can't wait to see you all in person at Tinley. And just on a personal note, Jeffrey and Josh, I know I've just met you all, but Patrick and Charlie, congratulations. I mean, what a journey, what a cool thing. I remember Charlie and I have had some private phone calls at 2 a.m. where we're both banging our heads against the wall, wondering what we've done with our lives, kind of thing. And it's a pretty cool thing to see, I got to say. And I'm just happy for everybody. And I wish you guys the very, very best. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, bud.
Thank you.
Thanks, Adam.
My pleasure.